Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very interesting video for you guys. Um, so yeah, I got this engine here. And if you're wondering why it looks like it's sitting in brown sugar, um, yeah, so what happened was, this is called foam damage, if you guys didn't know. Older foam used to be made of more natural materials or a different type of material, which would deteriorate or rot over time. As you can see here, it's just crumbling into powder, just like that. And it gets everywhere, and it sticks, and it melts. It literally melts into the brass and starts to corrode it. That's why you see the green here. Um, it sticks to the brass, and you can't remove it. You can see more green corrosion there. It gets inside the motor windings. It is just a general nightmare. Foam damage is one of those really annoying things that happens if you leave your engine in a box sitting in a closet for a long time, which unfortunately is how a lot of these engines are stored. And you get a nice little welcome surprise, which is like this. So the backstory behind this engine is our club got a new, I guess, shipment or a lot of a set of just random items, which they're actually one of the original founding members passed away, and his family decided to donate a lot of his stuff to our club. And we dug through a lot of things, and it was mostly, like passenger cars and freight cars and whatnot. And like there's like 2 or 3 brass engines, and this was one of them. And it was just in a pretty terrible condition, as you can see. And the club president, really didn't want to deal with it, and he basically was like, "Hey, Charles, I challenge you to repair this. If you're able to restore this in a running condition, then you get to get it for free." So that's how this got into my hands. I'm actually very excited to fix this because this thing looks horrendous, but I'm actually fairly confident I can get this looking almost like new. There's still going to be some tarnish, but for the most part, I'm going to get all the foam damage and hopefully all the corrosion off. And of course, I can get it running. That's should be pretty straightforward. But anyways, it is a very exciting project that I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm not really sure what the end goal of this will be. I don't know if I'll keep this engine. I probably realistically, I don't really know. I'll have to figure it out. Because I already have 2 B6SBs, so I don't know if I need a third one. But regardless, I think it'll be a really fun project for me to store, and at the very least, just have a good time with it. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to take this out of the box very slowly. I'm going to kind of clean this area up so we don't get any of the foam anywhere. And yeah, so I will be right back. Alright, I am back with a paper towel. Fortunately, there's no mold or any like bugs. At least I didn't see any in the box, so I'm not wearing gloves or a mask or anything like that. So it should be fine. But just for fun, if we take a piece of foam like this here, try to squeeze it. Yeah, it just it just crumples up into it looks literally like brown sugar. I'm not even joking. It's like dust. And if you couldn't imagine, breathing this in would be really, really bad for your lungs. So you definitely don't want to do that. Yeah, so this foam is obviously going to be thrown away. Definitely do not want to be keeping that around. Don't want to be getting that, everywhere. I don't want to get it on my desk or models that are sitting like the engine back there. Yeah, so the very first thing we're going to do is just kind of tap it all out. As you can see, the foam sticks to the side of the brass and it just kind of melts into, oh God, look at that. That is disgusting. It melts into like the brass. It like dissolves almost, and the whatever compound they use, it's like some sort of like chemical. Look at that dust that's just falling down. Anyways, I'm gonna try to get most of that off. There's the candy coupler. Look at that. Yeah, a little background about the model, by the way. This is a red ball brass, Pennsylvania Railroad B6SB. If you guys actually didn't know, I used to own a red ball brass B6SB. Look at that, Jesus Christ. Excuse my language there. Anyway, so yeah, this is a red ball brass, which is made in Japan, Pennsylvania Road Class B6SB. I used to own one of these, and it's actually like I think my second ever brass engine I've ever owned. Very, very fun engine. Really, really nice, honestly. I would say, so, Red Ball Brass was a rather obscure brass company. It was one of those earlier Japan-made brass companies. They only made like maybe half a dozen, maybe a dozen models total. And most of, and of which I believe only like the only model that was Pennsylvania Railroad was this B6SB. So the others were other railroads. So yeah, and I actually didn't really know the manufacturer until after I bought this engine, which I thought it was just kind of like a mystery brass loco. Um, and yeah, they're actually really nice. I mean, the one I had ran really well. I did get a can motor upgrade, but the stock gearbox ran really well, and the detail was pretty decent too. I would say it was, being early Japan brass, it was really good. Compared to like the other options like GHB or Takara. Um, but it was more, I would say, in the lines of like Gem, or maybe even a little more detailed than Gem. It's more comparable to Sunset Prestige, to be honest. There's some really nice looking details on these models, and I can really appreciate that. Again, usually, early Japan brass gets its reputation for being like rather crude and not very detailed, but these look really decent in my opinion. So I'm hoping once I get this thing all cleaned up, it will look a whole lot better. Um, Fortunately, I don't think I can get to much of the insides here without a toothpick or some sort of disassembly, so I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. But as you can see, the corrosion's really bad. The thing I'm probably most afraid of is the dust getting inside the motor, inside the gears, and the bearings. That's gonna be kind of a pain to clean out, and I'm hoping this corrosion didn't affect the nickel plating. It looks like the nickel plating is relatively intact, which is good. But if that did damage it, if I can't remove the corrosion without also removing the nickel plating, that might be a problem. Anyways, so I'm gonna clean this place up a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of all the foam, and I will see you guys in a few seconds. All right, after cleaning this work table up a little bit, I took a closer glance at the model, and I gotta say, it looks like this thing was basically brand new, if not completely brand new. And that is such a shame to see. It looks like, I mean, there's no wear, no dirt on the wheels at all. There's no grease in there. Um, all the parts exist. There's no damage anywhere. It just all looks to be in like basically pristine condition, except for, of course, the corrosion. Yeah, there's absolutely no wear on these wheels at all, which is crazy. And I emptied out the box. There's nothing in here now, and you can see the original owner paid $129, and it was originally made in Japan, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it is definitely a Red Ball brass engine. Red Ball B6SBs had a few distinct features, notably the later style bullseye markers on the front, which most B6SBs didn't have, but some of them did, and Red Ball chose to use that as a prototype. So anyways, yeah. All right, I'm gonna try to start cleaning this up with probably a toothbrush just to get some of the dust off. Again, my biggest concern is just not having this dust get everywhere in my room and my workbench and everything like that. So I'm gonna try to get, without wetting anything, I'm gonna try to get as much dust as possible off this engine, and I will be right back. I do gotta say, removing all this dust is actually really relaxing, and it's almost like digging for dinosaurs, where you can you're uncovering all the details. It's sort of like digging for fossils. It's pretty fun. I am coughing a little bit because there's a lot of dust in the air because of this. So I'm trying to work in a well-ventilated environment. So that is just definitely something to be aware of. You do not want to be breathing this stuff in. But yeah, otherwise pretty relaxing. It's always cool to see all the details these models had. And honestly, the more I look at it, the more impressed I am at how complicated these models were. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna finish this up, and hopefully you'll see the results. All right, I am back, removing as much dust as I could with just a soft toothbrush. And as you can see, I got rid of most of it, but even if I just tap it, I'll still see dust fall down. So there's obviously stuff inside. And so the next step will be to take everything apart, and then I'm gonna do a more thorough brushing, but this time with some abrasive brushes, probably a brass brush and a stiff plastic bristle brush, maybe even a steel brush, just to try to get as much of this stuff off as possible.
I wanted to interject this by saying that the model I'm currently working on is a bare brass model. That means that unfortunately the foam ate straight into the bare exposed brass on this model. So unfortunately that means I have to use abrasive methods. As you'll see in the rest of this video, I end up using stiff metal brass brushes. But ideally I'd be using a sandblaster of some sort. But basically I have to use abrasives to remove the foam. Now, if you had a later built brass model, roughly in the late 70s or 80s, there's a very good chance your model came from the factory coated with a clear lacquer varnish. Now that protects the brass and also prevents it from tarnishing, or helps prevent it from tarnishing. But if you do have foam damage on those models, you can actually just simply strip the lacquer coating off of the model to remove the corrosion, because there's a very good chance that the foam corrosion only ate into the clear lacquer but didn't touch the bare brass underneath. So as you can see here, I have a picture of an NJCB Santa Fe model with a clear lacquer, and all I had to do is simply strip away that clear lacquer coating to remove all the foam damage. So that I just wanted to insert that in for those people who do have those kind of models. That is a much easier process as opposed to doing the old abrasive method, which I'm currently doing here.
Wow, look at that. Inside, basically brand new, untouched, unmolested. That brass is very nice and shiny. Yeah, this thing, the more I look at it, the more I look at it, the more I feel like this was basically brand new inside the box and just unfortunately got damaged due to foam. I'm realizing there's a lot of dust coming off of this stuff, so I'm actually going to use a little bit of water. Just a little. Just to reduce the amount of dust I'm breathing in. I don't know what exactly this dust is, this green corrosion, stuff. But I don't want to breathe that stuff in, so. It's really looking a whole lot better, I'll say that. Oh, look at that. Yeah, so you can definitely see, when you look really up close, you can really see those tiny little cracks and crevices. Is from the foam eating into the brass. Yeah, you can see that brass is, it's clean now, but and it's not really noticeable, especially with a coating of paint. You wouldn't be able to see that rough surface, but that surface is caused by the brass corrosion, the corrosion from the foam. You can see this is what it's normally smooth. Normally it's smooth, as you can see, but because of the foam eating away into the brass, you can see that really subtle, like grainy texture, which it feels smooth to the hand. And again, after paint, it will look totally normal. But it's just crazy to kind of think how powerful that foam corrosion is. So, yeah. Took apart the shell of the engine, and this is what I discovered. Now, fortunately, there's not much corrosion, so most of this looks like just loose, relatively loose dust, which I can just kind of brush off or wash off. So that should be pretty straightforward. But I will have to take apart the gearbox and everything, of course, to reach the insides, because I do not want any dust inside the bearings or inside the gearbox. That'd be really bad. So, yep, more work. All right, after a little bit of scrubbing, there's still some stuff. This is all just the water I used, which dried up. But yeah, some scrubbing with the metal brushes definitely help remove a lot of the green. As you can see, I got a lot of it off. This is more water. I used water to just reduce the amount of dust buildup. So obviously, like this thing's quite green now. But yeah, it's looking a whole lot better. Obviously, when I do the final wash with just some water, it will look a whole lot better. But yeah, it's coming along well. I still gotta do the front, and this side honestly looks pretty good. I also did the rear of the cab a little bit. Need to reach a few more of the areas, but yeah, most of the green, as you can see, disappearing. The bell will be a little more fragile, so I'll use probably a more delicate brush for that. But yeah, coming along really, really well, and yeah. All right, I'm finishing up the trucks and the engine, and there's a few like very small places where there's some corrosion that is just kind of hard to reach. So for example, on the wheel, it's really hard to reach the wheel. So I've been just using this Dremel tool and just kind of spinning the wheel really fast and getting rid of all that dirt. So you can see on the left is what it looked like before, and on the right is what it looks like after I polish it with a metal wire tool on a Dremel. I find that the Dremel tool is really useful for things that spin, so like wheels are great, but the truck sides I still use the regular brush, just because it's a little more fragile. So anyways, this is just, you know, before and after, I guess. Left is before, right is after. But yeah, these turned out really, really good. The engine boiler is basically done at this point. So I think it turned out really, really well. Again, there's a little bit of, you know, micro corrosion on the, or micro that's like eating into the brass on the cab, but again, with paint and primer, it completely disappears, so you won't be able to see it after it's painted. So in practice it's totally fine. It just looks a little ugly when it's bare brass, of course. So yeah, the left side was more or less free of corrosion, so I just cleaned it up, and it honestly looks fine. I'm not going to, you know, eat away or, you know, polish this up, because it is just harnessed brass, which is totally fine. It's just the corrosion you want to get rid of. So yeah, the boiler and tender is mostly done, and the trucks are basically finished after I finish polishing them up. And so yeah, I'll just clean up this, which will be interesting for sure. But yeah. All right, I'm finalizing the corrosion removal. As you can see, I have the chassis completely taken apart with the wheels and the springs and whatnot. I have the gearbox completely cleaned out, which looks great. And so for these final, like, very fragile areas, I'm just going to be using the Dremel exclusively. I'm not even going to bother using the brush. So just using a Dremel and going very carefully, removing the corrosion. It is very fragile, as I said. I don't want these things to break off, so that's why I'm not using the brush. But yeah, so once this is done, hopefully we can see the final result. So I'll see you then. All right, and here is the final product. So we have a Red Ball Brass Pennsylvania Road 060. The tender turned out pretty well. As you can see, that it's a very nice shiny sheen on the brass, which looks really, really nice. Turned out overall really well. I replaced the rear light because it was missing. Bottom looks good. All the trucks are nice and shiny. No more corrosion on the wheels, which is really good. Katy coupler back on. Yeah, just all in all, no more nasty orange or nasty green stuff, and no more foam either. Also polished up this side, even though it didn't need it because it was already free of corrosion. And the engine, similarly, all the foam dust and whatnot's gone. I got fresh lubrication in, took all the old grease out. There actually wasn't really any grease at all in the first place because this thing was basically brand new. So yeah. All in all, looks really, really good. There's still a few tiny little spots with a little bit of green tinge, which I wasn't able to get rid of, just tiny little areas. I'm not trying to be super thorough with this thing, so because I don't really know what I'm gonna do with this, to be honest. You know, if I paint it anyways, it's not gonna be seen. But you know, 95% of the corrosion's all gone, which means that this brass will last a whole lot longer now. Shouldn't deteriorate. Shouldn't corrode anymore. So yeah, this side didn't really do much with, just had to clean it up. The brass was not corroded on this side at all, just a regular natural tarnish of brass on this side. So didn't have to do much on this side, but yeah, overall, I think it turned out really, really well. This engine looks great. As I said, this thing is, I would say, comparable to Gem, or definitely less detailed than Sunset Prestige, but in some ways even more detailed than Gem. You got the bullseye style markers in the front. You got really nice pilot steps here. Yeah, all in all, just I really like the I don't know if you guys can see that, the leaf spring, the suspension in the frame. It looks really, really nice. Really nice touch by Alco overall. So, or Red Ball overall. So yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. I think this project overall turned out very successful. As I said, this should be followed if your engine is not lacquer coated, but if you do buy a brass engine with one of the later brass engines that was lacquer coated from the factory, and the corrosion only affected the clear finish, then you could just simply strip it with some lacquer thinner and you should be all set. But this is for an engine which didn't have that, and and the corrosion ate into the bare brass. It takes a little more you know, manpower to scrub it all out, but ends up turning out fine. As I said, it's all 100% restorable to a pretty good condition, I would say. So anyways, hopefully this video was helpful for someone out there, and if you guys enjoyed, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any questions, also feel free to ask them down. I'll try to answer all of them as always. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.